Octopus in Boots by Samantha Newman, narrated by Gabrielle Glaister. Long ago there lived a young knight called Sirloin of Beef. Sirloin was famous for his bravery throughout the kingdom. He was so brave, in fact, that people said he didn't know the meaning of fear. Sirloin thought that was a bit rude, because he had looked up fear in the dictionary, and he was pretty confident that he did know what it meant, thank you very much. Sirloin defeated every monster in the kingdom, even the mighty ogre, Gutrot. Sirloin enjoyed a long and successful career, and grew an impressively bushy beard. However, he eventually grew old and tired of defeating monsters. One day, after vanquishing a sea dragon, he decided to quit. He swam to shore, then marched home, with seaweed and a determined octopus still clinging to him. "Children, I am retiring," Sirloin announced. "You must now make your own way in the world. Headstrong, my son, take my sword and shield. Anvil, my daughter, to you I give my charger and lance. Use them well." Sirloin's third child, Angus, cleared his throat. "Father, what about me?" Sirloin had forgotten about Angus, which was something he often did. He grabbed the octopus that was still holding onto his leg. This is for you, Arnold." Before Angus could say, "My name isn't Arnold, and what use is an octopus in the big wide world," he was thrown out of the front door. It slammed behind him. "Bye, Angus," called Anvil as she galloped off. "Enjoy your squid," smirked Headstrong. Angus grumbled to himself as he trudged away, holding the slimy, squirming octopus. "This is worse than the time Dad gave me his supper leftovers for my birthday. I hate seafood." As Angus walked down into town, his eye was caught by the fishmonger's sign. He went inside. "How much will you give me for this stinky, slimy creature?" he asked. The fishmonger raised an eyebrow. "Is it fresh?" "I'm fresher than you, old woman," the octopus piped up. Angus gasped in shock. "And you," the octopus pointed a tentacle at Angus, "ought to be more polite. I don't go around saying how revoltingly clean and dry you are." I don't buy talking fish," the fishmonger spluttered. "You couldn't afford me anyway," the octopus sniffed. Angus had no words at all. He turned and stumbled back outside. Angus put the creature down and walked away, but it slithered after him. It soon became clear that Angus's new friend could not only talk, he could also moan and groan and grumble. "My poor tentacles," cried Octopus. "They're all sore from this hard, scratchy ground." "So go back to the ocean and swim," Angus called over his shoulder. "I don't like the ocean," Octopus pouted. "It's too wet and cold, and no one talks to me down there. Help me to make my way on land, and I'll help you in return." Angus sighed and opened his satchel. "Here, I have a spare pair of boots." "Oh, thank you so much," said Octopus. "And could I wear your hat, too? I like that jaunty feather." Angus sighed again and handed it over. "Now that I'm dressed," Octopus beamed, tipping the hat with one tentacle, "I'm going to help you make a fortune. Let's ask if they need help in the inn across the street." Angus frowned. "But what if the innkeeper doesn't like talking octopuses either?" "Don't worry, he won't know I'm here." Octopus' skin changed from orange to yellow, then from yellow to beige, until he exactly matched the shade of the wall behind him. Angus knocked on the door of the inn and asked the innkeeper for a job. The innkeeper led the way to a room that was stacked to the ceiling with dirty dishes. "My dishwashing boy's off work with the plague at the moment," he explained. "I'll pay you a copper coin if you can get all of this clean by the end of the day." Angus was just about to reply when the invisible octopus piped up, doing an uncanny imitation of Angus's voice. "I'll get it done in 10 minutes if you pay me 10 gold pieces," said Octopus. "10 minutes?" laughed the innkeeper. "That's impossible. If you can do it that quickly, I'll eat my hat." As soon as the innkeeper left the room, Octopus leapt into action. He filled the sink with suds and started washing. Dishes flew from tentacle to tentacle. No sooner had one been picked up than it was whisked across the room for a scrub, then whirled onto the top of a neat stack. Octopus had a gleaming stack of 20 clean dishes before Angus had finished one. It was like being inside a whirlwind, only with more soap and crockery, and a fishier smell. 10 minutes later, the innkeeper came back and got the shock of his life. Every dish was sparkling. "But how?" he gasped, handing over 10 gold coins as agreed. "Don't forget about the hat," said Octopus in Angus's voice. "Oh, yeah, that's right." The innkeeper fetched a knife, a fork, a plate, and his flowery cap. Angus went straight to the cobbler's and bought Octopus another pair of boots. "Why, thank you," said the slimy creature. The unlikely pair set off for the next town, in the hope of making more money. They hadn't been on the road long when they saw the princess's coach up ahead, being ambushed by armed robbers. "We'd better hide," said Angus. "No way," said Octopus. "They may be tough, but they're not as well armed as me." The duo charged towards the robbers, and a second later, everything went dark. Angus yelped. "I can't see." "I made an ink cloud," called Octopus, pulling a frying pan from Angus's satchel. As the robbers blundered around, unable to see where they were going, Octopus bonked them all on the head with the frying pan, then tied them up. As the ink cloud cleared, the princess stuck her head out of the coach window. "What a relief! Who should I thank for saving me?" Octopus pointed 4 tentacles at Angus. The princess clasped her hands together and gazed into Angus's eyes. "My hero." "Oh, it was easy," said Angus, which from his point of view was absolutely true. Meanwhile, news of Sir Loin's retirement had reached his old enemy, the ogre Gutrot. Gutrot was imprisoned in a cell, guarded by a knight called Certainly Not. One morning, as Certainly was tucking into a plate of dragon eggs, he heard a cry. "Gosh," bellowed Gutrot, "a treasure map! One that is most definitely real and not part of a trick." "Are you sure it's not a trick?" asked Certainly, who wasn't the brightest gem in the treasure chest. "It's not like that time when you pretended to find a magic lamp, is it? Or the time when a beautiful princess came to visit, except that it turned out to be you in a cunning disguise." "No, it truly is a treasure map." "Wow," said Certainly. "May I see?" Moments later, Gutrot was free, and Certainly Not was locked in the cell, wearing his dragon eggs on his head. Gutrot made straight for the royal palace, kidnapped the king, and placed the crown on his own head. "Bow to me, King Gutrot the Ghastly." The people of the kingdom quaked in fear at their new ruler and begged for a hero to come over and vanquish him. Edstrong decided he wanted to follow in Sirloin's footsteps and defeat the ogre. He marched to the palace, brandishing his father's sword and shield. "Do your worst, ogre," he yelled. "Very well," grinned Gutrot, cracking his knuckles. Moments later, Edstrong stumbled back out of the palace, with his sword wrapped around his neck, wondering how he got there. When Anvil heard what had happened to Edstrong, she laughed. "My brother is a fool. There is only one woman for this job." When she arrived at the palace, she yelled, "Do your worst, ogre." "I already did my worst," Gutrot pouted, "when that other fellow came by earlier." "Then do your second worst," cried Anvil. Gutrot laughed. "All right, then." Anvil lowered her lance and charged into the palace. Moments later, she charged right back out again, with her lance tied in a knot. When the news of his siblings' trials reached Angus, he couldn't help but feel a little bit smug. "It looks like Dad's gifts really helped them," he said sarcastically. "Why don't you have a go?" said Octopus. Angus and Octopus walked to the palace. When they stopped outside, Octopus camouflaged himself against a hedge. Gutrot peered over the battlements. "Another one, and not even armed. What do you want?" Angus whispered to Octopus, "I've changed my mind. I'll never beat him in a fight." "Don't worry," said Octopus. "Just challenge him anyway. I know one contest that he'll never win. Trust me on this one." Angus looked doubtful, but nonetheless he shouted, "I challenge you, oh ogre." "To a talent contest," Octopus yelled, mimicking Angus's voice. "And if I win, you must leave the throne and set the king free." "Deal!" Gutrot cried eagerly. "Really?" said Angus. "Oh, yes. I'm the undefeated champion of the Big Spooky Forest Talent Show." "Come back tomorrow and we'll have our contest," cried Gutrot. "In the meantime, I'll get everything set up." "That didn't quite go to plan, did it?" said Angus as he and Octopus trudged away. When the pair returned to the castle the next day, they found its door wide open. A stage had been set up in the courtyard, and 3 strangely dressed wizards were sitting at a judge's table. "You should be backstage, darling. Go and break a leg," said one of them. "I don't even have a leg," said Octopus, as he and Angus ducked around the curtain. Spectators had begun to gather, and stallholders were selling them food. Roll up, get your rotten fruit and veggies." Angus gulped as he saw the crowd eagerly snapping up mushy old vegetables to throw. "Don't give up now," said Octopus. "But I don't even have a talent," said Angus. "What, nothing?" Angus shuffled his feet. "Well, I guess I can juggle." Octopus grinned. "I can work with that." As the curtains opened again, Octopus used his camouflage abilities to blend into the background. "Now, juggle for your life." Angus grabbed 2 handfuls of fruit from a passing stallholder and began to juggle. Octopus caught the fruit in his tentacles and tossed it up again quickly. If you didn't look too closely, it made it seem like Angus was an amazing juggler. The crowd whooped and cheered in amazement. At the end of the act, the judges held up their scores. 3 golden cabbages, gasped Angus. "They love me." Next, Gutrot strode in front of the crowd. "Yes, juggling fruit is impressive," bellowed the ogre. "But wait until you get a load of my extreme juggling." And with that, he started to juggle 3 horses. The crowd screamed with delight, and the judges awarded Gutrot 3 golden cabbages too. "So, "What else have you got?" asked Gutrot, smiling a truly awful smile. "What else have I got?" Angus yelped at Octopus backstage. "There are some instruments back here," said the Octopus. "Can you play any?" "I can play a few chords on the guitar," said Angus, "but it will take more than that to win a contest like this." Octopus thought for a moment. "I've got it." Moments later, Angus took to the stage, covered in instruments, a one-man band. He played a jolly tune, and nobody in the crowd noticed the little tentacles snaking about to hit the drum or clash the cymbals. The crowd loved it, and the judges awarded Angus 3 more golden cabbages. Gutrot pushed past Angus onto the stage. "Well, that was impressive, but wait until you hear this ballad, played upon my armpit." By the time the ogre had finished making squelching noises, the whole audience was in floods of tears. "I have never heard anything so beautiful," sobbed one of the judges, as they again awarded Gutrot a top score. The contest went on for the whole night. Gutrot matched Angus in opera singing, flower arranging, joke-telling, and even baking. "This is really heavy going," said Angus. "Wait, that's it," said Octopus. "Now I know what to do." Moments later, Angus strode onto the stage, smiling broadly. "Ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards, my next talent will be a tap dance." He started to tap, faster and faster. It was a rhythm nobody in the kingdom had ever heard before. But what they didn't know was that Octopus was right next to the stage, tapping as fast as he could with his booted tentacles. At the end of the act, Angus strolled off the stage to a standing ovation and 3 more golden cabbages. Of course, Gutrot wasn't going to give up easily. He leapt onto the stage and started stamping about with his huge ogre feet. Stamp, 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 crash! Gutrot had stamped a hole right through the stage. The crowd howled with laughter. The judges weren't impressed, and gave the ogre just 1 golden cabbage this time. The air filled with rotten vegetables as the crowd turned on him. "I won!" Angus cried, turning to Gutrot. "Now you have to set the king free." Gutrot was furious, of course, but he kept his word. The king was set free, and his first order was to throw the ogre back in his deep, dark dungeon. The princess, who had been watching from the crowd, sidled up to Angus. "You saved me, and now you've saved the kingdom. Do you want to go on a date? I know a lovely little seafood place." On hearing that, Octopus squeaked indignantly. "That sounds great," said Angus, "but instead, how's about we drop by my local inn? They're really clean dishes." The king clapped Angus on the back. "I must give you a reward for saving me." "Actually, Your Majesty," said Angus, "this octopus is the real hero." "Is that so?" laughed the king. "Then what do you want, creature?" Octopus smiled. "There is one thing. Well, 8, actually. You can have 100. And so the king's cobbler was put to work, making 100 shoes, clogs, platform boots, winkle pickers, snowshoes, roller skates, and Octo-Puss in boots became famous throughout the kingdom.